We are excited to talk a little bit more with you about the value of earning your nationally accredited certification. But here, quick, before we dive in, I did want to launch a quick poll and find out from those of you who are with us tonight, go ahead and select the certification, the primary certification that you're studying for or looking to take here as we move forward. We just want to kind of see who we got with us tonight. Give you just a second if everybody could answer that for us. Excellent. Okay, so it looks like we do have the bulk of you here who are preparing for the medical assisting exam, but we've got some folks also looking at billing and coding, administrative assistant, really across the board. So thank you all so much for answering that for us. We just wanted to do a little get to know you, see who's with us tonight. So today we're going to take a look at what certification is and isn't, as well as why earning a certification is important to potential employers. We'll review what resources are available to help with that, as well as what can come after you earn your certification. And again, for those who can stick around, we'll be posting that link in the chat box. So fill out that survey and you will be put into a raffle to win a $50 gift card. So stick around with us there. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, NHA has 8 nationally accredited certifications in 2 sections. The first 5 highlighted here fall within the practitioner side of frontline healthcare. This includes medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy tech, EKG, and patient care technician. There are also 3 certifications that are focused more on administrative roles, which include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-health records. In addition, NHA does develop learning tools around key objectives for the healthcare professions that we serve. But today we are going to focus on those 8 nationally accredited certifications. So let's start by explaining what certification is. So for the healthcare industry, and really any industry, having a certification represents more than just finishing a course or a program. It actually proves that you've gone above and beyond to validate your knowledge, your skills and competencies in important core areas of the field you've chosen. It gives employers a next level of confidence in you and what you can do. So let's take a look at the difference between a certificate of completion and a certification. So a certificate of completion shows that you've completed training, usually through an educational program. So for example, earning a degree or a high school diploma shows you've completed a program that would be labeled a certificate of completion. A certification is obtained through a national, usually certification agency, by taking and passing a credentialed exam. Think about the difference, for example, of going to medical school or becoming a doctor. You aren't a doctor just because you graduated med school. You have to pass the test to earn your license. So they're 2 different parts, both important. Okay, so why is it important to get certified? Well, NHA works with employers across the country, and we know that they value candidates who have an industry certification. We see this in that those who do have their certifications are more likely to get hired in the first place, often have a higher pay scale, better job security, even a pathway for career advancement. Having your certification also tells employers that your skills are credible. It shows you have a set of abilities that have been proven and will provide them with improved safety and standards of care. And with the growing trend for employees to take on more and more responsibilities, this is a huge benefit to the employer and they truly value it. So for example, even though a job post may be looking for a medical assistant, when they go to screen applications, having credentials and a national certification will help you stand out, even if it's not, again, posted in the job description. In fact, a recent survey of employers across the country labeled that 91% of employers reported they would hire a candidate who has a certification over one who doesn't. So if they have two people, both equally talented, but one has a certification, they're going to pick that one to hire. That same survey showed that 86% of healthcare employers highly encourage or require that their staff earn or have their certifications. Also, 62% of HR teams use if you have a certification in a screening process prior to hire. So if they have two candidates, one with a cert and one without, they go in two different piles. So how do you want your resume to be seen? A few other items from that same data showed that the most important soft skills that a candidate needed to show were professionalism, critical thinking, dependability, and verbal communication. And critical thinking and dependability were those most often missing in potential candidates. NHA does have some additional resources around developing these skills that you can also look into. So, in the past few years, I mentioned we've seen some trends on hiring and candidate skills. We know on average, employers have a hard time locating qualified candidates. There's also been, as I mentioned, an increase in reporting that healthcare employees have more responsibilities. And on average, entry level candidates lack required EMR skills. Getting your industry certification or even stacking that with additional certifications can provide employers confidence that you are equipped to do the job at hand. Having your certification when you finish your program doesn't just help you get your foot in the door, but can also help you earn more income. Of those interviewed, the majority of employers confirmed they would increase pay when or if an employee earns that certification. And remember, that's different than a program certificate of completion. Okay, so the value is there, right? You see some of that actual data, but what comes next? How does this work? Well, at some point, you will need to create your login with NHA at nhanow.com and start that process. Now, we do recommend getting your login set up as early as you can to help you prepare for the test. If you're studying through an employer or an academic program, they may have specific times in mind for you to do this. So please connect with them if that is you. But that means registering for your test, right? It also means making sure that you are prepared for it. So, depending on your program, you may already be using NHA's online study materials. But you want to be sure that you review the requirements for your test plan and your exam. Finally, you have to actually sit for that exam, right? You have to actually take that certification. So these are kind of the key steps to getting you into that testing space. So I wanted to ask a quick question here. Let's see. I'm going to post another poll. So those of you here, how many of you have already started this process, right? Where are you of the options listed in your journey? Just want to kind of check in with you guys here. So go ahead and answer. We're just going to give everybody a second to pick the one that makes the most sense for them. Got about half of you. See if anybody else wants to post anything here. Give you one more minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'll share the results with you this time. What do you think about that? All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to just go ahead and share these results. Okay, so if you guys can see that, it looks like the bulk of you are studying, but have not yet gotten to that exam space. But we do have people on either side, not yet with their login applied, not quite there yet. So, woo, a couple of you have your test coming up. So good for you. Thank you so much, guys, for answering that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that login. So whether you've done it or not, when you have your NHA account, we do recommend that you get this done. So no day like today, for those of you who haven't done this yet. But if possible, prior to test day, we recommend that your login with NHA be an email address that you will check frequently, not just while you're in your program, but one that you will continue to check once you finish. Also, be sure that you identify what your password is. The password requirements are kind of specific. You can't reset a password in the middle of an exam. So you want to be sure you take note of what that password is. The other key step here is to be sure that the name on your account is your legal name, first and last, whatever's on your government issued photo ID. This is the ID that you will need to have physically with you on exam day, and they use to verify you. And if your account name and your ID don't match, then you may not be able to test. So check this out now, make sure everything is set up well before test day. So, a quick note, some of you mentioned that you might be studying already. On our website, you can find additional resources to help you. But let's take a quick look at what NHA's available study materials can do. So the study guide is broken into main categories. This is the online study guide or a sample of what it could look like. Each section is aligned to a core content item from the exam. Now, this is not enough to study all by itself, right? So, making sure that you either have work experience or you're going through an academic program, these are key to making sure that you're eligible for that test. But what this can do is help you understand how NHA will talk to this material and how we're going to test you on it. You have access to activities and games, quizzes and checkpoints, and a total of 6 possible practice test attempts. There are also tools like glossary terms, flashcards, even a series of professionalism videos. Now, these are a great help in understanding what's expected of you in your new role, but they're not a part of the exam, so don't worry too much about that. But they are important to show that you are not just good at the job, but are you a good employee, right? So, those practice tests you have access to are designed to mimic and look and feel exactly like the NHA exam. You are taken through several different test versions with a total of 6 possible attempts. Now, just because you get a bunch of tries doesn't mean you should take them all right away to memorize questions. These are designed to help you prepare and study for the exam. Each of the attempts is like the full certification, but do not expect that these exact questions will be on the certification test. They are designed to follow the test plan, the blueprint for all scored questions. They will provide you feedback, reporting, additional tools to help you study. If you're doing this through a program, you may have rationales or instant feedback turned on or off to help as you prepare. We do suggest you try for at least one practice test to be as close to a real exam feeling as you can create. If you can get those rationales turned off or even time yourself to make sure you're all set for test day. Now, it's not important that you take all 6 assessments, but that you study in between them. So, though you get 6 total attempts, we see really those students who have at least the first 4 have a higher possibility of passing the exam. As I mentioned, the next phase of this is along with each practice test, you're going to get another tool. This is called the focused review. This is a specific resource tied to that one practice test attempt to help you focus on the areas you might still be struggling in. It helps that you do more study, right? Not that you go back and try to get a good score by memorizing questions, but by taking the time to learn what you haven't yet mastered. So the focused review is tied to each practice test. You get a new one for each attempt. It is filterable, it is printable. You can go back and highlight certain areas or competencies you want to work on, but we recommend spending time in this review before your next practice test. And I mentioned eligibility a little bit ago. How do you know if you're eligible to take one of NHA's accredited certification exams? Well, right from your home screen, you have an option to find out if you're eligible to test. Scrolling down on this page will take you to a short quiz as well as a link to the candidate handbook where you can see all of the requirements or options for eligibility. In most cases, if you're doing this through an academic program, you should meet all that you need to get the minimum requirements to test for NHA's certification exam. So there are different pathways for potential eligibility. Academic completion or work experience are 2 different ways, and they are all found for more information in the candidate handbook. Okay, so on that, I wanted to take another quick moment. How are you doing this? Are you doing this through an academic program? Are you working with an employer to earn your certification? Or are you doing this on your own? So you should have a poll there just to give us a snapshot of kind of where everybody's coming from here. Give you guys just a second to answer that. Got almost everybody. Anybody want to join in there? We'll capture everybody there. All right, I'm going to close this up now. Let's go ahead and share those results. So it looks like the bulk of you are studying through an academic program. We've got a couple folks doing some other work too. No worries for you, right? So for those of you doing this on your own, not associated with the program, you might want to go through that little quiz just to confirm your eligibility. But if you have worked at least a full year in the scope of the role in the last 3 years, then you should be eligible to test. But do double check because some of our certifications have other requirements like phlebotomy or EKG have additional pieces there. So no matter how you're studying, you know that there are resources now available to you, but how do we make sure your exam day is a good one? Well, let's take a look at this timeline. So as I mentioned, you should start by creating your NHA login if you haven't already. The sooner you set this up, the better. NHA has seen that those who register early have a higher probability of actually taking their certification test. So now is a great time if you haven't done this yet. If you can, or if your program is providing it, get access to the NHA study materials as soon as possible. A recent survey of over 6,000 certification holders confirmed they wished they had their materials sooner so they could study better prior to testing. On that, following good study habits is an important part of this process. With the NHA materials, we recommend you go through the study guide first, using it to help you see what the NHA test is going to be on. Then, when the time is right, start taking those practice tests. Again, each practice assessment is like the full exam, so use them to see how you do if today was test day. Don't just take them to memorize questions. That's where the focused review comes in. Use it. And if you have any additional program materials that your instructors are providing you or outside materials to study in between each of those practice tests, also be sure to apply for your exam as early as you can. Best is at least 2 weeks before the exam date, if not earlier. You have to apply at least 7 days in advance to make sure everything is ready for exam day. So get that done as soon as possible. The day before the test, be sure you know your login, email, and password. You can't reset your password during an exam, and you're going to be on a different computer than you've been studying on. So you won't have your saved passwords. You don't want to get stuck in the testing center without being able to log in. Remember also to show up early on exam day and plan ahead for traffic and parking. And then you can finally take the NHA exam and earn that industry certification to become NHA certified. So that's just a overall rhythm or flow for some best practices. Okay, so once you have studied hard and sat for your exam and you earn that certification, which I know you all will, what happens next? Right? Well, once you pass, you can keep going. There are always options to further your career path and stack those certifications with other credentials. You may already be eligible for the eHealth Record certification based on your program or experience. NHA also has a job board available to you where employers across the country post jobs looking for certified candidates. There's a blog space where we post interview prep tools, job search tips, resume writing suggestions. We even host podcasts you can listen to. Beyond that, it's important to remember that your certification doesn't last forever. You do need to keep it updated by completing continuing education credits, which you can do through your NHA login or upload completed coursework from an employer or a program. I mentioned briefly some additional skills developers on soft skills. Well, purchasing and completing some of those can count as credits towards your renewals. They include online, digital role play and simulations to help grow your skills in professionalism, emotional intelligence, teamwork, communication. There are resources on motivational interviewing and population health management. Lots of great tools out there. Now, with NHA, there are no annual dues or fees for your certification. You only submit payment when it's time to renew every 2 years. Now, that's not the same for all certification providers. We highly recommend that you create a LinkedIn profile and be sure to add your certification credentials. Employers will Google you, so make sure that they see that you have your certification. You can also put them after your name in your email signature or resume. Make it clear that you are certified. If you're doing this through a program, be sure you talk to your career services team for more help. Don't forget to bookmark the NHA website at nhanow.com so you can go back and review those blogs we were talking about. And finally, once you've earned your certification, go online and post the hashtag NHA certified to any social media platform. Tell us your story. We really do read these and we love hearing from you. Now, to help with all of this, as an NHA candidate, you will be getting email reminders and resources directly from us at specific times through your journey. They'll cover reminders on when to do different things, as well as how-tos for using the resources available to you. Those how-tos are available for you at any time through your login. So there's a resources how-to button that you can go through. Also, NHA, as I mentioned, has a blog space, a job board, and podcasts. You can use them anytime through the account. We're also, keep an eye out, we're going to be launching an app coming up pretty soon. So keep your eye out for notifications on that. So this is what that website looks like. If you don't have that login already, do you see that where it says view all NHA how-tos? That's where you can go to see those additional resources. Here is just one example of one of our candidate testimonials. We love hearing from you. It's not a joke that this is going to be hard, right? It is I saw it is a very difficult test. Someone posted that in the chat box. That's kind of the point. And working in healthcare is also hard, but getting there, getting that credential, doing this job is incredibly rewarding. And I need to let you know that here at NHA, we are proud of you for even taking this first step. We know that this is difficult, and you're not just going to be changing your life, but the lives of those around you. They're seeing the hard work and dedication you're putting into this, and it will make a difference. So we have lots of these inspiring testimonials out on our YouTube channel. I can't wait to hear yours once you've earned your industry certification. So keep going, work hard. I've got a quick question here. We're going to do another quick poll. Here we go. So this was a kind of a brief overview of NHA, just in general certification. So if we were going to do another webinar, what of any of these items, I know it's give you a second just to read through everything, would be most valuable for you to go through and read and attend, right? Go ahead and pick whatever might apply to you the most. If you select other, tell us in the chat box, what do you want to hear about? Give you guys just a minute. And some of these we can also answer a couple of these questions if we want to. For those of you sticking around to Q&A, I see we're mentioning how are the exams made and scored, progress and study. So we can definitely take a look at some of these here if you guys stick around with us tonight. Okay, we got just under half a yet. Give you another second. So we take your feedback very seriously. And this is how we even developed this webinar in the first place, is based off of real-time candidate feedback. So thank you all so much for answering this. We really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to close up. Excellent. So it looks like the bulk of you are a little bit curious about how the exams are scored, which we can definitely talk about tonight. We can also look at some of those additional resources and tools. So thank you guys so much for answering that. All right. So as I mentioned, before we get into the Q&A, I wanted to remind you that we will be sending out the recording from tonight to anybody who registered. There are other webinars that we will be hosting throughout the year, which you can register for if you like. And please keep an eye in the chat box here in just a minute. We're going to be posting that survey. Oh, there it is. I think, is that it? Webinar feedback. Great. Thank you so much, Susan. Anybody who fills that out is going to be put into a raffle to win a $50 gift card. So that's your link right there. Copy that, save it, open it up in another window. That's the link that you want to fill out. As I mentioned, you can subscribe or register to other webinars that we'll host from the resources page on our website in the upcoming events section. So you can go right there and register for some additional webinars if you like. But that was a lot of it, kind of the bulk of our conversation today. So I wanted just to go ahead and open this up. I'm going to say hi. Hi, everybody. I'm the one who's been yapping at you all night, but I know we had some really specific questions on the exam scoring. So I wanted to kind of bring some information to light. So as we kind of talk about the exam scores, one of the things I mentioned earlier was the test plan. So I'm going to show you where you can find it. It's available on the website. So this is just nhanow.com. And I'm going to go under this Get Certified section right here, and I can pick any one of the certifications. So I know a lot of you are working towards the medical assisting, so that's one we're just going to pick here. Each of these pages is going to walk you through some information, how to renew your certification, steps to get certified, what does it mean to become, in this instance, a medical assistant. So I'm just going to scroll down here all the way to the bottom. Sorry, I'm going to go kind of fast. And right here, download for free is the test plan. So this is the blueprint, right? This is the outline of what the exam is going to be, and also what your prep materials, if you purchase them or have them, are going to be about. So for this example, the MA exam has 150 scored questions. But look out. There will be 30 questions that are not going to be scored. So the exam itself has 180 questions on it. This is a 3-hour timed exam. Okay. Now, as you scroll down, you'll see each one of these what we call domains. This is our key area where we have kind of these subcategories. And each one of these line items is a possible section that we're going to be asking questions on that exam. And also, you're going to have information in those study materials. Now, MA is kind of big, so I'm going to click on this one-page summary right here. And this is going to take me to an overview of what's on the exam, and kind of a little bit easier to read. So here's that domain again, and each one of the core competencies from that section. For those of you who have the NHA study guide, you'll notice each one of these is one chapter or module, as we call it, from the study guide. So to understand how you're going to be scored on this exam, just so you know, no matter who you are, if you're taking the MA exam, you're going to have 15 questions under the domain of foundational knowledge, right? 12 questions under anatomy and physiology. So you can see how you're going to be tested. Now, not everybody's going to get the same questions. That's where things get a little sticky. So even though you're going to have potentially 7 or 8 questions on EKG or phlebotomy, the questions that I get and the questions that you get might not be the same. So how do we make sure that we're scoring each individual fairly? What if my EKG questions are easier than yours? Well, that wouldn't be fair, would it? So no matter what, every tester, every candidate who sits for the exam has the potential to earn 500 points. The maximum point value you can get. No matter who you are, it's going to be 500 points. So that's what you would think of as a perfect score. Well, the minimum passing score is 390 or higher out of that possible 500. Well, how did we define that? Well, when we first launched this exam and as we go through it, those additional kind of pre-test or non-scored questions, we use to evaluate questions to say, hey, how hard is this question? How likely is it you're going to get it right? Or even we evaluate it in the beginning. How important is it that you get this question right the first time you're asked it if you're working in the field? So we take all kinds of evaluation to create weighted questions. So again, if you have a really, really hard question, that's okay. We know it's really hard. We put it there on purpose, but it's probably going to carry a little bit more weight if you get it right than an easy question, right? It's just different ways are set up. But no matter what, you have the potential to earn 500 points on the exam. So we're going to score each individual fairly across that whole test. So I know that's kind of a complicated way to go about it, but that is how we score you on the exam. I know that was kind of a big question there. But before we move on, that was just one I wanted to immediately answer. Have there been, hey team who's with me tonight, have there been any kind of consistent questions populating or percolating in the chat or the Q&A?
Hi, Laura. The most common question that came up was what score, again, do they have to get to pass the exam? And another one that came up frequently was where can they test?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, a lot of that depends on your program, right? If you're testing through your program or your institution, or if you're testing on your own. So I would follow up if you're associated to a school, right? Or an employer. I know there's a couple of you that were that way. Check in with them to see how they're going to test you. But for those of you, for example, who are testing on your own, right, who are just challenging this by yourself, if you go under that Get Certified area, you can go over here to where it says Remote Proctoring. And all the information about the availability to test is right here. So we do have the option for remote proctoring, but you can also test in person at any of our testing sites across the country. So here we go, open PSI testing centers. So you can see all openings right from there. So it kind of depends on where you live, what's available and open, but we do also have the potential for remote testing and all these tools to help you with that. I mentioned also that you might have some tools kind of built into the website. This is a pretend student. His name is Gary Got This, right? That's his name. And what he can do is if he has questions, he can explore his most used how-to resources right here. How do I schedule my exam? How do I track my progress with my study materials? How do I apply for my exam? And then we have here a library of a bunch of other how-tos. I'm going to click on that one. So here we have videos and downloadable PDFs that take you through the whole process. If you need to purchase study materials, if you're provided study materials, if you just need to learn how to study for an exam, we've got one right here, preparing for your exam, right? So there's lots of great resources right on our homepage for you to be able to access right from that view all how to's. So that's right there for you. So hopefully that's answered some questions. Does anybody else, while you've got us on the line, we're here eager to answer your questions. So anybody else have questions that have not yet been answered tonight? Study hard, right? There's no trick. There's no easy out for this one, right? You actually have to do the work, but nobody expects you to do it overnight. As long as you pace yourself, get the studying in. Statistically, if you follow that best practices that we were talking about earlier, let me just go back to that slide real quick. Where is that image? There we go. This one here, right? If you follow these best practices, statistically, you'll do much better on the exam. Now, we can't promise you, right? We can't promise you're going to pass the test, but we've seen candidates across the country follow these steps, and statistically you will, as long as you put in the work, right? That's where it comes from. Okay, so we have been recording tonight. I want to remind you, we will be sending that recording out to everyone who registered for today. But if you don't have any other big questions, if we could, we still got that webinar feedback form in the chat box. Remember, anybody who fills that out is going to be put into a raffle to win a $50 gift card. So please fill that out for us. Thanks, Susan. Just posted it again. So we'll stick around here for a couple more minutes for those of you who might have additional questions, but feel free. That was the end of our presentation for this evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. Look for other webinars out on the website. And if you have any other questions, please know we're going to stick around with you here just a little bit and get those answered.